Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about Xbox because they just released a statement admitting that they have been lying. They have lied in hundreds of podcasts and interviews. Every statement by Phil Spencer, it is all completely made up. The bedrock of Xbox is Game Pass, this big experiment that they basically said that instead of trying to charge you $60 or $70 for a game, or now $80 for a game, instead you get a big pool of players to chip in a small amount, $8, $20, right? The Game Pass subscription, and then that big pool of cash, Xbox uses it to buy developers, to fund games, to basically break even. And since the very, very start, Phil Spencer has said on camera, like thousands of times, Game Pass is profitable. Don't worry about closures. Don't worry about layoffs. Don't worry about these strict restrictions. We want our developers to be free to make the games they want. They just admitted Game Pass has never been profitable. Since the very start, Game Pass has been geysering cash, and I feel so justified. I have to admit this. I've been talking about the unprofitability of this, and constantly people say, would Xbox lie? Xbox claims it's making money. Look, they did lie. Let's talk about it. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I have to admit that it is wild to just finally see them say this out here, but Phil Spencer and Satya Nadella from Microsoft have been lying to their investors and shareholders. They kept saying Game Pass is profitable when it very clearly wasn't. They simply did not count the cost of first-party games and budgets, only the fees paid to third parties and marketing. Do you read that? They literally admitted, this is so psychotic, the games are profitable if you pretend they're free. Like, legitimately. How many hundreds of millions of dollars did they spend making that wet turd Starfield? I mean, that was clearly a huge investment beyond even the marketing and stuff. Bethesda is a massive, massive studio. They funded that development for years and years and years. How many of these games are just costing tons? Gears of War E-Day, the next Forza, Halo, Infinite, right? Those games are not breaking even, very obviously, because they're so expensive to upkeep, to dev, to make. They're saying they're profitable if their games don't cost money to make. They're literally asking... Everybody is like, bro, so all these years when Xbox fanboys pointed to Phil Spencer claiming Game Pass was profitable, as most sensible people were skeptical or flat out didn't believe them, turns out it's because Phil conveniently left out the single most expensive aspect of Game Pass. The whole idea of Game Pass was straight up that. It's, yes, sometimes there is third-party deals, stuff like what they did with Expedition 33, where they reached out to the devs and said, we want this day one on Game Pass. And they go, okay, pay us $1 million or whatever, right? They are only counting that in their record books. They're claiming that all their games didn't cost money. Now, already, I've seen some Xbox fanboys trying to defend this and saying that, oh, Xbox Division is separate from Xbox Game Pass. But nobody would have assumed that. If I'm looking at Netflix, Netflix technically sells DVDs. You can buy like Stranger Things Season 8, whatever the hell that show's on. You can buy that on DVD, right? But you know that when Netflix talks about profitability, they're talking about the total amount to make shows, to produce them, and to put them out. They're not talking about the profitability of the DVDs separate from the cost of putting out the shows themselves. They purposely have been lying to claim to investors, yeah, man, this is still a good idea. The Game Pass experiment is definitely still worth investing in. Oh, God. Every day the news gets worse and more bleak. The Game Pass revelations are insane. It makes me thankful that they never ended up acquiring the likes of Sega, Square Enix, or WB, or many of the other publishers they were linked with. Oh my God, dude, this is the best point. There has been talks about somebody trying to buy out WB. If they bought them, they would just lay everybody off. It's weird to think about the fact that Sega has grown a lot in the last couple of years. The success of Persona, obviously they're jointly working with Atlas, all the stuff with Yakuza games, on top of the explosive popularity of stuff like Sonic Frontiers. They would have gutted that. They would have said, sorry, Sonic Frontiers isn't profitable enough because it doesn't fit this weird metric. You all get the axe. I guarantee it. All the replies, what's bleak about this? Why would they count their own games? A single month of 35 million subscribers theoretically pays for a whole year of development of AAA a game that takes 3 to 5 years. They've already announced they're spending approximately $1 billion a year for Game Pass. You really don't understand how much they're spending on development. Yeah. So one of the specific numbers that Xbox themselves keeps kicking around is we have 40 games in development. They keep saying that. We have 40 games in development. Let's assume most of those probably AA or single A. Only a couple of those are big AAA. But let's say even 25%. Let's say even 25% of those are big AAA games. That still means billions and billions of dollars of investment on this 35 million subscribers. Are you really trying to tell me this somehow is breaking even? I truly, truly don't believe it. Now, I had to put this meme in here because this does actually crack me up. Colin Moriarty got absolutely flooded with hate. He did a video a couple of years ago where he very much went into the math and basically calculated it out and said, okay, how much subscribers do they really need to have to break even? Let's just sort of try to figure out exactly what it costs, roughly what these games are having, how much are they selling, how much does it take to break even? And he basically said, not only are they in the red, they are deep, deep, deep in the red. And he got flooded with hate for, I think to this day, he still gets flooded with hate. And I have to admit the fact that I like the fact that he just said, wow, I'm hearing this for the first time just now. Like, you got to give the guy credit. It is absolutely... Phil said every studio needs to be profitable by themselves. Games, microtransactions, selling legacy games, coalition, helping other studios. There is way too many variables to give this, oh, this is it. I feel like people are still trying to defend this, but to me it's so black and white. They lied to you because it's very obvious that from the very, very start, the point of Xbox hasn't been about selling games. It's unfortunately a way for Microsoft to have an extra investment branch. I mean, they've never explicitly stated it, but it's very obvious that they make trillions of dollars on Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word and Microsoft Windows. But they've always had the idea that their company looks bigger, it looks more profitable, if they also have a physical distribution arm, actual first-party games, selling controllers and stuff. This makes them more profitable in the eyes of investors. But now, with the Game Pass experiment just gushing money down the street, I think a lot of those investors are starting to turn that eye of Sauron and say, wait, why are we paying for you to piss this down the drain? Why are we investing for you to buy $80 billion studios like Activision Blizzard that just put out stuff third-party anyways? Game Pass was never going to break even. I hate to be that guy, but I was right. Obviously, I was right. Everybody was right. Anybody that was trying to defend this years ago, it was so obviously wrong. Well, thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a good day. If you could, please give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. I'm eating nothing but chicken and rice. I'm not even going to show it to you. It's the most pathetic meal you've ever seen. I'm trying to eat only chicken and rice for this whole month. And oh God, I'm hurting for some flavor, brothers. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.